this word soul conscious is given in opposition to body consciousness. So tonight I'm going to look at the comparison of those two, and so that we can understand a little bit more what it is. And then we'll also look at becoming soul conscious. As Christine was saying, this matter of soul consciousness is very key and central to the study and practice and the work of the Brahma Kumaris. So first of all, what do you think? Are you souls? Are you a soul? Are you a soul? There's two questions really. One is, are you a soul? Or the other one would be, have you got a soul? You are a soul. That's quite an interesting thing to think about, whether you are one or you've got one. So, what do we say? I am one? A few people, they are a soul. And then how many people have got one? We've got quite a lot of don't knows. Quite a lot of don't knows. Okay, so let me talk a little bit more then in that case about how we in Brahma Kumaris have learned what the soul is. And you know that from Christine, I've done a lot of work on the Gita, which talks about the soul quite a bit. And so there's a number of criteria that must be fulfilled in order for something to be a soul. And first criteria is that it is not material. Our bodies are material, right? And they are also temporary. Everyone got born at some point, you know, you all have a date of birth. You don't have a date of conception, because nobody can figure that one, but, you know, when you got born, that can be written down, and the hour, even the minute. And you have a date of death, which is not known until it's over. And then the soul outlives the body. So the soul actually will leave the body and continue. So there is, before birth, the soul is there, and during life it is there, and then after life it's also there. So a soul is deathless, endless, beginningless. So this is also quite a deep thing to think about, and especially if you think that you are one, then you also have to think, well, if I am one, then it means there has never been a time when I have not personally existed as an individual. That's a long time. And here we are in our life, which is short. Life is short. And then after that, continuation. So after this, is not possible for a soul to cease to exist. And what that also implies is there are a fixed number of them, because you can't make new ones. You know, that's unusual, no? Yeah, there's lots of new people, new bodies, but no new souls. There's a fixed number of souls. So you're either here somewhere, or if you're not here, because everybody knows the population is increasing, right? Not decreasing. There's tons of people getting killed, but the population is still increasing. So that means existing souls carry on, take again bodies, and then other souls come from somewhere and get into the process, the human family, and that's why it's increasing. So there is a bank for souls. A bank. And so they're all there, and they come here, and then at a certain point in time, they'll go back. So you're either here or there. You have to be somewhere. It's okay, right? So you think about yourself like that. It's a different way of thinking about yourself. So that is a part of what it means to be soul conscious. And so it means nobody ever gets lost, which is quite nice, or maybe quite nasty, depending on who you're thinking about. But, nobody gets lost. Everybody's somewhere. And you, each and every one of us, we have a story, and we perform our story. And so that story is very much part of our individual identity. Now, souls are spirit, bodies are matter. So spirit means not made of any stuff that you can detect through any scientific machine, or that you cannot see with your sense organs or perceive at all through the sense perceptions. But you can discern, and you can sense souls with your mind. Everybody's got a mind, right? Nobody here who doesn't have a mind. What is a mind? That's another big question. So a mind is not really a thing. The mind is a word that we use to refer to when the soul is thinking. That's called the mind. So when the soul is thinking and perceiving, it's all in the mind. For example, you experience things, right? Everybody has experiences all day long. You experience stuff. And the soul is the one who experiences whatever you experience. And part of your experiences are from the external world. You see, you hear, you touch, you sense, you smell, all these sensory data goes in to the soul and hits it at the mind. So the mind is like an instrument which collects sensory input. And then there's another thing that comes into your mind, which is memories. And the mind also operates by association. So, yesterday I was doing something about fear. And so if you hear the word fear, there'll be certain associations that are immediately conjured up by that word, and that association will appear in your mind. And that is also something that happens in the mind. So here am I sitting in front of you, and you will see me with your eyes. If you close them, you won't see me, but I'll still be here. And then you listen to me through your ears. You cannot smell me or touch me so far. And so you're just using sight and sound. And the impression of me is coming into everyone differently. You have different angles, a different amount of attention, it all varies. But the experience of me in you will be actually occurring in your mind. And we don't normally think about that, do we? But, when you look at it in terms of these concepts, you find that, experiences occur in the mind. And then when that particular event that you're experiencing is finished, then it becomes a memory. And you either remember it for a long time or a short time, depending on how interesting, how impactful, you see. Consciousness. So consciousness is, in a way, another word for the soul, because the soul is conscious and the body actually is not conscious. But anything material responds to whatever is conscious. So, for example, if you experience something which makes you feel very sad, it can produce salty tears. If you experience something which makes you laugh a lot, it'll produce tears, but they'll be sweet. So there's some sort of chemistry going on in the body that you can associate very clearly with whether it's a positive or a negative or a sad or a funny experience. And if you get like very afraid or shocked, you will have a bodily impact in that your blood pressure will change, your pulse rate will change, your heart rate will change. So the soul and the body are absolutely symbiotic. They're working together all the time. And part of our study is to dissect all this and see what is doing what, and how does the soul and the body work together, and then to identify the self with the conscious part. What do you think? Does that sound right? Are you a body? Or do you have a body? You have a body, right? And you got it at some point, and then you have it, you're enjoying it or not, as the case may be. And then after some time, it ceases to function adequately, and then the soul will leave the body, and then when the soul is not in the body, then we say, there's a dead body. You see, so the life, or the animating force, is the soul. And then we say, that's me. I animate this body. I see through these eyes. Your eyes don't see. You know. You need them. They're instruments for seeing. But they're like cameras. They don't take the photograph. You take the photograph. You decide, I look over here, or over there, or whatever. So your focus of attention is something that is decided by the conscious self. So I, the soul, decide to look at this person for this amount of time, for whatever reason, you know. So we go through life doing all these things, but really not very consciously. And when we are sort of not conscious of what we're doing, we are what I call down on the material level. So I use the word down and up. So when you are very aware of yourself as a soul and you pull yourself up to a kind of higher level of consciousness, that we might say that's more soul conscious. You see what I'm saying? But these are very subtle differences in language. Doesn't matter what language you speak, but language was created by people in the consciousness of the body. And this is why a language, and certain languages like German language, you have der, die, and das. You have masculine, feminine, and neutral. In French, you just have masculine and feminine. In English, everything's all one thing, so it's easier. But, you know, a person, when you think of a person, you say this is a man or this is a woman. And any form you sign is all about your body. They never ask you questions about your soul. It's too subtle. And so this identification of the self with, as a body is reinforced all the time, all the time, all the time. And as you are raised and grown up by your parents, you know, they will say, you're a girl, girls are like this, boys are like that, boys plays with these toys, girls plays with those toys. If you're a girl, you really shouldn't be playing football, you know, that's for boys, you know, and you shouldn't be fooling around with guns, that's for boys, you know, you play with dolls. And all of this is to prepare you for a fixed type of adult life, which you may or may not be interested in. But this conditioning is there because this is the way the leaders, social leadership sees, because everybody likes continuity. So they will say, you get born, you go to school, you do this, you do that, you get some education, you get married, you have children, and the whole thing goes on indefinitely. And what is the meaning of life? We don't know. But some people, they say, no, I'm not going to do this if it doesn't have any meaning. And they may suicide. There are people who do that, you know. So the world likes to protect us from such extreme measures by saying the meaning of life is your kids and your husband. Then if they're not there, then you say, okay, I need some other meaning. Okay, your career. It's boring. Okay, you know. So we have to have a lot of imagination and creativity to try to find out what is the meaning of my life. But it is a question that arises time to time, no? Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you say, you know, does my existence have any meaning? What am I for? Or sometimes people want to know what is their purpose. Then you also hear this expression, higher purpose. Do you like this expression? Higher purpose? A lot of people like to have a higher purpose, you know, because just eating, sleeping, reproducing is not, you know, any different from animals. And humans are supposed to be something different, you see. So what makes us different? I think one of the key things that makes us different is our interest in meaning. And one of the things that is said for the purpose of life is happiness. Do you like happiness? And then happiness is a very subtle thing. You don't really know what exactly that would be. Another word for it, which I think is quite a useful one, is fulfillment. Do you like this word, fulfillment? So what is it that makes you fulfilled? There has to be love. There has to be depth. There has to be a sense of wonder. Things like that, you know?
And achievement.
Achievement, yes, this is also very important, you see. And all of these things are nothing to do with the body. They're all to do with the soul. And so as we start to, you know, think about it in terms of the vocabulary of consciousness, soul, meaning, it gets to be a little bit philosophical, it gets to be a little spiritual, because we are spiritual beings. Functioning in the material world from a place of spiritual awareness. That's another way to put soul consciousness, you see. In comparison with that, you could say that body consciousness has to do with considering your identity in terms of your appetites. gratification, sense gratification. And most of the commercial activities and advertising and all that is really fueled by the desire people have for sense gratification and calling that happiness or fulfillment. And the reason that it is not quite enough for people really is that it is very temporary. And because the soul itself is permanent, what you look for is something which is much more permanent. You see, if you go for an ice cream, okay, you can have really good ice cream. Italian ice cream. And before it melts, you have to eat it. And maybe you can enjoy that ice cream for 15 minutes, half an hour. And then, okay, what's next? So all of this eye candy and the rest of it is all to do with the conditioning that we have, very much of conditioning to think of ourselves as primarily all about sense gratification. But there is something behind us which talks about, is that all it is? Is that all there is? And there are certain moments where you really become very conscious of this, like when you're in front of a dead body. Have you seen dead body? It does something. Nobody's there. There's a corpse. It's really an object. You have, if it's a person very close to you who has died, you have a really strong relationship with that being, but that being has gone. And you experience loss, though the body is right there. And it's very, very clear to you when you're in front of the corpse that that is not the person. As long as the body and soul are together, you're taking the whole package, and that's a person. But this moments like this make you really viscerally know that, yeah, the person is gone. So that means the person truly is invisible. Body is visible. So when you ask yourself this question, who am I and what am I? It's a difficult question to answer because you're talking about something which is intangible, which is invisible, which is real, but which escapes your grasp. And so this preoccupation with soul consciousness that we have here is to be able to get onto the level of the soul and live on the level of the soul. That our relationship with matter is actually quite different. And so in my language, I say we have to be up and not down. So a higher type of consciousness. It's as if you have two possibilities. You could be operating from the brain, or you could be operating from the soul. So when you're operating from the brain, it's all about sense perception. It's all about linear time. It's all about morality and how the world is ordinarily set up. When you're operating from the soul, well, you're not going according to everybody else to start with. And when you're operating from the soul, you're much more conscious that everyone is not what they look like. you become interested in the person's heart, not their blood pump, the essential core of that person, that's their heart. So open heart, closed heart, frozen heart, black heart, white heart, the different hearts. And the heart, in that sense, is synonymous with the soul. Because the soul is indeed the core of your being. And your being is essentially having qualities. You know, here we always say Om Shanti, right? It's saying, I am a peaceful being. I am a being of peace. Peace is my fundamental starting essential state. And from there, I come into action through the body. But my ground of being is peace, serenity, at ease, in balance, in the face of what's called the pairs of opposites. Success, failure, happiness, sorrow, health, illness, things go well, things go badly, wealth, poverty. All these things that normally we swing one side and the other, but if you are a soul at peace, it means that you have gone to another level where those pairs of opposites are not pulling you and swinging you one side or the other. And then you start to be aware about and maybe interested in the laws of spirituality, which are rather similar to the laws of physics. They're not somebody made them up, but they're natural laws that you have to discover. And one of them is that, you know, if you want to take into yourself the positive on this pendulum swing, then you will have to take the negative. That's a law of spirituality. And so in the face of that law, you have some options. And one of the options is to transcend, to go to a higher level so that you become a person who is in equanimity in the face of success, failure, that you are not pushed and pulled by those things, but you are the own self, the independent master who is also like a detached observer. Okay, you win some, you lose some. But we will never say, I am the success I just got. In body conscious, you might, you know. I am the number one, you know, but for how long? There's a time limit on it, always, you see. So one of the things that you do in spiritual practice is that you aim to get yourself into this state of consciousness where it's as if these things are below, you're above, detached. Okay, success, very nice. Failure, okay, no problem. It doesn't move you. This is, you can say, soul consciousness. So it's a very steady state. A soul-conscious person is a person of love. We like love. Everybody likes love. Very, very few people have the quantity of love to be able to love everyone. That's difficult. It's a big power. Love in the sense that you are having good wishes for everyone. Not good for these people and not those people. That's not love, that's partiality. Why is a person partial? Quite honestly, because they don't have enough inner power to spread that in a full and general way, because it's a lot of energy to extend your love without limit. It's a lot of energy. But the soul actually has that potential. So when we are studying about soul consciousness, we're also looking at, okay, the meaning of being a soul in your full potency is you are a being of love. That also means that the thoughts, and the soul produces thoughts, right? So the thoughts of a soul, conscious soul, are positive. Why positive and how positive is that when you look at a person, you do not see their body, you see their soul. Or you see them, the soul. You see what I'm saying? Or you see their heart, you see their core. Otherwise, normally people see what color a person's body is, it's big or small, or fat or thin, or, male or female, or whatever that is, and you will see the person in those terms, which means that what you're seeing is their covering, but you actually don't see that person, you see. And to get to know a person takes time, right? But when you develop soul consciousness, it also enables you to, go right through the masks. We have many masks, and you go through the masks and see the core and relate to the core. That's a very nice way to be. And you see the essential characteristics of the person, and you appreciate them, you love them, because you see the real stuff, So this is also part of soul consciousness. Then also we say the soul is pure in its essential original condition, because the soul is mutable. It changes. And some people think the soul is unlikely to change, but no, it changes. It changes from strong to weak. Conscience is also in the soul. Everybody has a conscience, right? We don't always talk to it or listen to it, but it's there somewhere. And is a very, very important part of the soul, because this is your guidance. So it's a aspect of the soul that will let you know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's real, what's not real, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea, what's worth it, what's not worth it. This type of thing is indicated to your being, to your heart, by this instrument which we call conscience. A very good thing. But some people don't really, or sometimes you even hear it said this person doesn't have a conscience, right? Because they're doing things that you would never do, or that you wouldn't want them to do, but they're doing anyway. And even if you think of yourself, sometimes you do something against your own conscience, right? This is normal. And why would we do that? It's kind of strange, no? When you do something against your own conscience, it isn't because you became bad, but weak. Do you think? Because when you're in your power, then you wouldn't do that. But it happened in a moment of weakness, right? And then you say, oh, terribly sorry, or make amends, or something, to try and rectify it, or else your conscience bites, it's got teeth. And you feel, I think we all feel better when we have a clean, clear conscience, yeah? And you have a lot more self-honor. Clean, clear conscience. You're much more powerful when that's the case, you see. So when the soul is weak, these things happen. And so why we meditate is to actually empower the soul, or for the soul to draw power into itself so that the soul can function true to itself. I say it, because there's no pronoun for a soul. We have he for souls in male bodies, and then we have she for souls in female bodies, and we have it for chairs that don't have souls. So there's no pronoun for a soul, which sort of reinforces this idea that language is developed by body-conscious people. Otherwise, there'd be a pronoun for the soul, but we didn't make one. So I say it. Because it's not to do with male and female. Because soul is genderless, you see. Right? Your body has a gender. And the soul is definitely influenced by the body. Very much so. So, having a female body, then whatever are the feminine attributes of the soul, they will be, enhanced and reinforced. And then if you get a male body, then the masculine aspects will be enhanced and reinforced. But overall, a soul doesn't have a gender. So that means if you think of yourself as a soul, you want to develop soul consciousness, then you have to say, I am colorless, genderless, bodiless, classless, languageless. The language of the soul is the language of peace, the language of love. The language is a non-verbal thing. If you're a good poet, maybe you can do it, but, most of us are very limited by the huge effect of body consciousness or material consciousness that has been influencing us culturally, historically, for thousands of years. So here we are saying, oh, you know what? I'm not a body. Oh, yes, you are. I don't have a race. Oh, yeah, you definitely do. No. I don't have a race. I don't have a color. That's different, you see. And we don't even have the right words to, speak. So we have to sort of invent some or use some sort of metaphors. But all this has to be thought about because we want to be able to stabilize in the consciousness of being genderless, deathless, bodiless, raceless, classless, cultureless, all of this. So if we take off all those things, what do you have? You have a being of light. It's energy, right? But the energy is weak at this time. And this is the reason why we are interested in really focusing on this sense of identity as a soul, because for meditation you have to focus the energy of your mind upon itself. Right? Normally the energy of your mind is scattered out into what's around, you see. And in meditation, you want to bring your focus of attention to inside. It doesn't mean you want to see what your brain looks like. It's a different kind of inside. It's your inner world. The world of the soul is the intangible inner world of thought. Thoughts are things. And they are generated by the mind, and they make an impact in the atmosphere. So they're real. Can't see it. It's like Bluetooth. You can't see Bluetooth. Everybody's got a Bluetooth sitting there somewhere in their mobiles or something. But, there's all this stuff going on around us that we can't see. We kind of know it's there, but we don't pay much attention because you can't see it. But we need to develop the subtlety to be able to sense the quality of thoughts. So the soul is peaceful, it's loveful, it's pure, it's an energy, and its default state is bliss. You experience bliss anytime? Occasionally. Very occasionally. But, that is really, like, for example, if you'd say God, the state of being of God is a blissful state. The state of being of souls is all sorts of different emotions moving around, swinging on this pendulum, happiness and sorrow and fed up and bored and so many different. That's why we have these emoticons. So you can have a whole conversation in little circles with various facial expressions. And we do that all the time nowadays. Because we're actually quite visual people. And if you would be Chinese, all your letters are characters. They're pictograms, But we make words with different letters, so it's much more kind of abstract or intellectual. But otherwise, the person who's connected with the mind is all to do with visual and what it represents, what it means. So we get meaning in those representations. So when the soul is weak, then those original characteristics of purity, peace, power, love, bliss, they're missing, or they're weak, or they're empty. And then the space which is left by the loss of those energies or those characteristics is filled by what you could call dark energy. So when you're empty of love, then you're needy, jealous, maybe hate, maybe anger. Different negative emotions fill up that empty space. And so this is the shadow side of the soul. And it causes us to do things which are against our conscience. And then these things have consequences, which we also don't like, but we can't avoid. And then we say, we need explanation. What's going on, right? So this is why we have this kind of school where you learn about these things. And so the most important thing for a soul who wants to be soul conscious is need to take power. And the source of spiritual power, we call that God. And so what is God? Neither a he, nor a she, nor an it. That's another problem of pronouns. A very powerful being of light who is always full of what we are empty of. So that's our source. We have to be able to connect with that source. Like if you want to charge up your mobile phone, you have to stick it in the electricity. And it won't charge up by just looking at it. It's not going to work. Maybe we can get solar-powered cell phones one day and just show them to the sun. But it's still, you're taking energy from a source. So meditation is really this. We have to bring ourselves from this lower state of consciousness, material state of consciousness, up to a higher level, where we are really conscious and feel, I am genderless, I am bodiless, I am raceless, I am cultureless, I am languageless, I am a being, a pure, peaceful, powerful, loveful being of light. And then you have to get to that, if you go up, you kind of can. And that there you're able to experience all of time all at once. Past, present, and future. It's like you go on that dimension where you can see it all at once. That's nice. Then you're no longer in sort of chronological time. You're in a different kind of time zone. Subtle, but on the soul level, because the soul is eternal, the soul has a different relationship with time than body consciousness is very linear. Soul consciousness is more circular kind of time. Eternity, you've seen the picture of eternity, it's like a figure 8 sitting on the side. And then you can also see what we call the three worlds. You're quite well aware this is a material world, but then you're also able to pull back from it and understand the world of thought. Thoughts are non-material, and they have a power to become something. You think, I will have a cup of tea, then you go and make one. But it has to begin with the thought. Or you think, I'm going to kill this person, and then your conscience says, well, I don't think that's a good idea, I shouldn't do that. Well, but I want to. You may want to, but the consequences, I don't think you would really, So you get this battle inside between what the emotions want, and the conscience says, don't do that, really pay attention. Sometimes we don't listen, but we mostly have to. So you want to be away from that. You want to be in your power, and you want to be true to yourself. Is it right? And so to be true to yourself means you have to be true to, I am pure, I am at peace, I am a loving being, I am powerful, I am blissful, I mean something, and I'm here, and I'm good. And you really are. And I'm not this body. So you bring yourself up, and then you're on the same dimension as God. I see. Where is God? Not here, but on a higher level. So we have to go on that higher level. We call that higher level soul consciousness. So first we have to become soul conscious and stable in that. And that takes years and years of investigation because, what is really a soul? Am I really soul conscious? Am I doing this right? Do I understand what this is? All these questions, So we have to go through that and experiment, and we do. And when you get on that level and you make contact, what happens when you make contact with that energy source is some sort of lighting up, right? Because the current flows. So this is the indicator that you're making contact. This is why we call it yoga. Yoga means contact, connection between something else, not exercises. That's really the meaning of yoga. So the yoga is, you come into soul consciousness, you connect with the Supreme Source, and you draw power into yourself to become full, which is a kind of fulfillment. And you take, how much love do you need? How many tons? Liters, thimbleful, you want a lot, right? Because what is the capacity of your soul? You can't really tell until you start taking it in. And take in power, take in love, take in peace, take in purity, take in bliss, take in all of these things, and you become more like your real self. Because when you feel empty and depleted and exhausted, it doesn't feel good, right? So many people are experiencing being overextended, tired, doing, not enjoying. You see, it's a weak state, and we don't really like that. So I'm going to suggest that I take you through a little exercise of meditation to practice this process of bringing the self into soul consciousness so that we can then connect and draw the power into ourselves. And there are lots and lots of things I didn't tell you about the soul because there's so much. But one thing that I must tell you is, where is your soul in your body? Not in your elbow. Where do you do your thinking? Somewhere up here, right? So this is where your soul is sitting, somewhere in the middle of the forehead somewhere. And from there you look through your eyes, you listen through your ears, you smell through your nose, you touch through your fingers like this. And so just sit, you can be with closed eyes or open eyes as you wish. This picture behind me, there's a small point of white light in the middle. You can focus on that, that's also good, because being focused is a very important part of meditation. It's about being concentrated. In body consciousness, we get very distracted. If you close your eyes, you actually defocus your mind. So some people like it better closed eyes. But anyway, it's up to you. So, first of all, just feel the energy of your being throughout your body. Just feel it. And consider that all that energy is coming from a point in the center of your forehead. It's the animating force that animates your body. And let yourself be very aware of that point of light. And even draw your sense of self, your energy, draw it, concentrate it into that point of light. And let yourself feel that your body is truly an instrument, an object that you work with to express what's within you. And to experience the material world. Be very aware that all experiences of the world occur in your mind. Be very connected with your mind. And consider that you are a being of peace. Independent of your body. Your essential nature is peace. And you are light. Feel the heart of your being. A golden heart. A loving, pure, white heart. Very bright, soft, subtle being of light, like a flame, beautiful, bright, pure. And become aware of a powerful presence not far away from you. Connect in to that presence, which is a very powerful energy source. It's the mother, father of the souls. The unending, brilliant light, full of power. Be near to that and draw that into yourself. That power to be your real self. Feel yourself stabilizing on a higher level. Beyond the everyday world, in a dimension of light. Really feel your power, your purity. And as you get very stable, you begin to taste the bliss. You taste the deep silence of the soul. Then let yourself gently reconnect with the everyday world. Reconnect with your body. Come on to this everyday level. But never be very far away from that other level. So you can go back to it any time. Om Shanti. So did you get a sense of what soul consciousness is? Could you feel yourself going to this other space and then coming back again? Because this is something we need to be able to go and come at will. And the more we spend time in that space, the more we can pull, the energy, the love, the peace, and then we can function much better in this material dimension. Yeah? So we have a little bit of time if anybody has any questions, but very often after meditation nobody has any questions because you're in a different place. But you may have something. Will you practice this? You can remember the things I was saying, you just say those things to yourself. And then go on that dimension. Yeah? Did it make sense to you? Good. Meditation is so good, it takes away everybody's questions. Then we say, do you have any questions? But you do. Okay.
Just for the recording, thank you.
Thanks. On BBC News today, it talked about 25% of young women having
mental health
issues.
Yeah.
And when I was reading that, it made me think about the impact of social media and the impact of, international brands and, pop stars, all of that sort of thing. And it sort of filled me with a real sense of sadness that, what we're doing here today is almost like the opposite of that, and it's the cure for it, and that so few education authorities around the world sort of really open up to that possibility.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. But this mental health thing, it's been like that for a long, long time. But it's getting talked about, or not all the time, but today. But there are other statistics. I've been working on some stuff over many years, and in around 1995, which is a good long while ago, there were statistics being bandied around like 94% of women have been molested, assaulted, raped, harassed by the age of 13 by people very often in their own family over the age of 18. And that also affects someone's mental health, someone's emotional stability, and so on. So we live in a culture globally where, all of us, men, women, children, animals, everything, is sort of at risk and targeted by all kinds of things you mentioned, social media and so on. So just being alive is not easy. And we need so much strength just to get through the day. you know. So it's really good while you're still in one piece to reinforce the self with a daily meditation. You know, we do daily meditation, morning time, evening time, in between time, because we really feel that, you know, you meditate, you take power, you use it, dealing with the life. And so you want to take, as far as possible, you want to take more than you use so that you can accumulate a background power, like a kind of capital, so that you're able to deal with when really big things hit. And when you hear about statistics like this and you look at yourself and you think, you know, am I one of them? Or do I know some like that? Or do I have some like that in my family? And a lot of it has to do with love. The culture from the First World War onwards discourages love. You might also have seen that there was a little boy who was beaten to death by his older brother because his mother decided that that should happen because he didn't want to do his homework. Today, in the newspaper in France. And in France, they're having a law against smacking in the house. It means violence is pandemic in the home and in the workplace. And you know, violence is a sign of weakness. You see? It's symptomatic of the soul is really depleted. It's a reaction, you know. People come under different kind of stress. Otherwise, if you say to any mother, do you think you should get your child beaten to death? They'd be horrified, right? How many of you are mothers? There's quite a few, right? Yeah. I mean, what is this? So the circumstances that we are in, I think it's very difficult. People don't even know how to love. Yeah? Because it's all about stuff, you know, there's, you've got to have things, you've got to be top of the class, you've got to this and you've got to that, and in the process, all the spiritual components get eroded and lost. And so here we are, we got climate change, global catastrophes of one kind or another, and what do we need is those components that come from that source. But what's difficult is to go from the body consciousness, the material consciousness, where you're really disconnected from that, to the soul conscious, where you are close. And so this is what really this evening is all about, is knowing that it's really a two-step process. First, we have to bring ourselves up to that higher level of consciousness and be in the awareness of I am the soul, and really think about what that means and stabilize the self in that feeling. You got the feeling in the meditation, right? A really pure, peaceful, subtle, light state, you know, because everything about the world is bringing you down. So you have to resist that and then make the connection, pull the power. And it's very subtle. So here we practice it, we teach about it, we study it on all these things, so that we can protect ourselves and maybe even create, you know, you create an atmosphere when you do this. And so when you meditate at home regularly, you're going to create an atmosphere in the home so it becomes like a protective place. And that's really nice, because even if you go out in the world, but you can come home to a spiritually nourishing place, because you're sustaining that atmosphere with your meditation. And you can also, if you sit somewhere particular at work, you can, create an atmosphere there. And people will like to come and sit there because it's nice here. I like it here. It's nice here. What's nice about it is a good feeling, because it corresponds to the soul. And the soul is hungry, suffering, all of this, So we have to care for ourselves and then try to build it so that it can be extended to other people, because not everybody is going to sit down and learn how to do this. There's a few people who will do it, but then once you know how to do it, to extend it is a good thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you. Left you holding it.
Anybody else want to ask anything?
Hi.
Hi. Why not?
Could you expand a little bit on the difference between conscience and conditioning of like the law of the land, your spiritual upbringing? Because sometimes we say someone doesn't have a conscience, but is it necessarily their conditioning? So just a little bit on that.
Well, to me, your conscience is you. There's a little fellow inside. I don't know how many people there are inside your head, but one of them is the conscience. And it's all part of you, but it functions like some other person, because there's some other person in there who says, no, I don't agree. So there's different bits of you having different ideas. But the conscience is definitely what we also call in Raj Yoga, we call the intellect. But it's the part of consciousness that can tell the difference. The mind, I'll give you a little experiment, do not think about a green apple. What happens? Think about a green apple. So the mind doesn't know yes or no. But the conscience is about yes and no. Do it, don't do it. It's okay, not okay. Conditioning is my pet hatred. There's all these ways that you're supposed to be, right? Who decided that? You have to be like this, you can't be like this, blah, 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 right? Finger-wagging people. So it creates a lot of confusion. And you will find from time to time that some external moral authority will say, you have to do like this, and your conscience will say, no, that's not right. I'm not going to do that. So I think the conscience is connected with the soul, you see, and the soul will know what's right and not right. And the conscience is the instrument for articulating that. And then these other people who give you this other message, how do they come up with that? First of all, body conscious. Second of all, it's usually the elite group of any particular society that will define all these things. 1,000 years ago they were doing that. And then they leave it in the tradition and they say it's always been like that. And therefore, your conscience is not reliable. Listen to us. And then, you see, when you come into spiritual practice, you say, not going to. Who are you? Who are you? Oh, well, we're just people who get away with things. Not anymore. So I think, when you really empower yourself spiritually, you give a lot of credibility to the voice of conscience. And even if those guys tell you that your conscience is not reliable, you say, have a nice day. My conscience is just fine. Go away. You know, don't say it out loud or they will give you what for. But but it's another area of conflict. And there is really a conflict between matters of the soul and matters of materialism. And this external moral authority is usually telling you messages as convenient for themselves and not necessarily in your best interest, and you have to get that. And once you've understood that, then you realize that, you know, you have your freedom, you have your options that you can exercise, and then you have to be very creative to get through all of the blocks that are in place to prevent that from happening. But when you're in your power, you're kind of going up and up in an ascending state, and those guys are getting weaker and more corrupt. So you're actually in a good position to assert your inner moral authority. So go for it.
Okay, I think this might need to be the last question, but as I said, Denise is going to be downstairs if anybody would like to talk to her downstairs.
Great.
Thank you. Sorry, you can go for Esther.
I was thinking one of the nasty things about, let me rephrase that, one of the tricky things about address.
Go ahead.
Addressing one's conscience, listening to one's conscience and not doing that which is required of one is whistleblowing.
Is what?
Whistleblowing.
Whistleblowing. Oh yeah, that's dangerous.
Because there is much to be analysed before one does whistleblow.
Yep. So proceed with caution. But you know that there are many things that you can do, and you can begin to establish a way that starts to get picked up around you, you know. And you start with little baby steps, and then you go further. But yeah, doing the right thing is expensive. So you need a lot of money. Not necessarily the money of pounds and euros, but you need the money of personal spiritual power. And people tend to use blackmail to keep you under control. But if your life is clean, it's a bit difficult for them to do that. So a person who develops themselves spiritually also lives a very clean life. And you have a very clean, clear conscience, gradually. And you begin to realize certain things. There's 3 secrets I will give you, even if it's on the recording. One is, nobody can kill you. Even if they destroy your body, you say, I'll come and haunt you, so watch it. Nobody can corrupt you. And nobody can break your spirit. And once you know that, you're not cowering in a corner anymore, you see. So there's a lot, you know, that can be done without exposing yourself to being, you know, framed and all of that. which is what normally happens to whistleblowers, because you have to see what you're up against, understand what you're up against, and really take a look at your options, and do not do something that's going to result in you getting eliminated, because it's a waste of time. You do something in such a way that you make inroads and you get things clarified. You set standards, you know. And there's a very important thing that Schopenhauer said. Schopenhauer's a German philosopher. And he said, for people who want to be different, at first the other people will ridicule you. Okay, you get through that and you still persist in your being different, then they will oppose you violently. And if you can get through that, they'll say, yeah, we all knew it was that, you know. And this is useful to know, because it's all about getting through these processes until you become the one who sets the norm. And so, you know, to have persistence and perseverance and patience is really good for this sort of thing. And so one has to be kind of off the radar, low profile, get yourself powerful, keep going, and sooner or later, one fine day, oh yeah, this is how we should do. Good, thank you very much, let's go. Like that. So don't allow yourself to get disheartened.